Real quickly, I'm going to go over this image and how I edited it for contrast and tonal adjustments. It sort of applies to all the other images within this whole project. Every image is obviously going to be a little bit different, but the same theory applies across the board. So I won't go into the Photoshop stuff as far as blending images, mostly because it's pretty simple, and I'm also going to go over it in parts 2 and 3. So we'll jump right into it. So this guy is the original. This is straight out of the camera, no adjustments. So we'll take a look at the histogram. We've got no black clipping, which is great, just turn clipping on, and we have no white clipping. So this is what exposing to the right looks like. We have as much image data as we possibly can, but we're not clipping any of the whites. So if I wanted to, I could bring this, everywhere down, and it's still not bad. We don't get that weird just shade of gray that you would get if you had a completely overblown highlight. But anyway, first looking at this, I know I want to improve the mid-tone contrast and the highlights in this area right here and then in the flower. We have a dark black somewhere in the entire frame, and we have a bright white somewhere in the entire frame, but it's not necessarily in this area. And so just that area is kind of flat, kind of boring. If we zoom in on it, it's okay, but it could be better. So go to that edited one. First, I upped the actual contrast. So this is going to pull these blacks around here down. So before after, see they get a little darker. And it's going to pull the bright whites up. Still, again, I'm making sure I'm not clipping anything. So I'm constantly toggling that J key to make sure I'm not blowing anything out or crushing anything. So the overall contrast is good, but see if I that. You can see we lost a little bit of shadow detail. So I'm going to bump that back up, and that just adds a little bit more detail into this area, to her hair, her clothes. We're not losing that as much. Then, if you look in here, this is what's flat. It's still backlit, so there's still a lot of texture in it, but it's not that good. It's kind of that just this zone 6, zone 7 kind of light skin tone, meh sort of feel. Not great. So really push the whites up, and I took that hump right here and just pulled it up. So we've got the highlights in here that pop a lot more. There's more drama to it. We've got these light beams kind of through her hair, more apparent. All through here, there's a lot, just more contrasted. It has a richer texture to it, if that makes sense. But I'm not using the clarity slider. The clarity slider will also pull the shadows down, and that's not what I want to do. I just want to bring the bright parts up. So I'm not going to use the clarity slider. I don't believe I used any selective adjustments, but I did on this. Let's see what do I do with that. Okay, so I just toned that down a little bit because it was a little bit bright. That's the only thing I did with that. Didn't do anything with those, didn't do any of those. Yeah, it's a pretty simple concept. You're just trying to improve the overall contrast, so you have a bright white and a dark black. Again, not clipping. And then you want to adjust your shadows to where you have the level of detail you want. That can be selective or fully encompassing the whole image. Just depends on if you're using an adjustment brush or not. This one is across the whole image. And then you want to bring your highlights and mid-tone contrast up to where you want it to be to add that pop to the image. And that's about it. You can apply to any of these. See the before after, they're all that little bit of flatness to them, and then afterwards you just, the bright whites are really what do it. Flower's white, so you need to have it white. Yeah, that's about it. Like I said, in parts 2 and 3 I'll go over more of the Photoshop side of the editing, but for the most part with these, it was really just a bunch of Lightroom adjustments. You can see the contrast, making sure I have those bright whites, not clipping anything. That's about it.